guess this will be a video on how to scale it to 11 by 17, how to change the property of your sections, and then inserting details that are not from Revit.
Okay. So first thing we'll go through is just the print settings again for printing out scaled drawings at not full scale. I think the best way to do things would just be to say, well, I have ARC E1, so that's 32 by 40. Half size would be 15 by 21. So essentially, I just scale that to 50%, still centered, and let's see, go to PostScript custom. This might not be the best way to do it, but let's say 21, 15. And I'll path that to the desktop as half size. All right. The orientation was incorrect, so I'll just go again. And all those settings should be saved. I'm going to go actually to the PDF properties and change the landscape to portrait and save over the existing file. Can't create, it's open, so I'll close that. Now I can save over. So there we go. And I'll check the sheet size properties in 21 by 15. So if you had a 22 by 34 full size sheet and you did that at half size, you'd get 11 by 17. And so on and so forth, just kind of matching the scale that I've set up here in Revit. So essentially you want to control that through the zoom setting.
Or you could set up your sheets initially 11 by 17.
That's another way of doing it as well, is importing a title block that's 11 by 17 if you have a standard 11 by 17, so like a RFI template or an ASI template or something like that. You can load those things in and print them at 100% and they'd be 11 by 17.
Because then you would just build it, and then if something was bigger, so you just adjust the scale of every particular little viewport, essentially.
So I'm going to go through and set up a detail view for a detail that's not necessarily drafted in Revit. So what I'm going to go here is to my View tab and go to Drafting View. And I could set up the scale. We'll just go for the default at the moment. And so essentially this is just a 2D view, not associated with the model at all. And I'll go to Insert, and I have a JPEG at the moment. So I'll go Insert Image, and I'll go to my AutoCAD detail, which is a JPEG. You could also import a CAD link, or import a CAD, or even link a CAD file, and that thing would update as well because it's pathed. So let's open that. There we go. That's our setup here. And this is named Drafting View 1. So I'll find that in my project browser, and I'll rename that, let's see, brick facade.
And we would recommend, if you're going to do this process, always use PDFs because it has vectors. So it's smart line work versus if you did a JPEG, no matter what, it'll always come out pixelated. I mean, even if it's a good JPEG, it'll print well, but always, by rule of thumb, use a PDF format. Excuse me.
So what I'm doing now is I'm going to find that brick facade detail and place it in a sheet. And then now I'm going to go, say, to one of my sections here and associate that detail with a call out. Again, I'll go to reference other view because I don't want to actually reference this part of the model. I want to go to drafting view, and I'll go to that brick facade detail. So it's not necessarily taking a snapshot of this part of the model. It's actually just referring me back to this view here. But what's smart is the referencing to that sheet. We'll talk about...
So just to add a little idea, is like, since our model is, drawn in 3D, and we're referencing this, point in where the two pieces collide, and we're referencing a detail that has been drawn already, super detailed. So that's kind of a workaround way that you could call out certain parts of your model by referencing more detailed drawings, and this is the way you would do it. So essentially, this call out is not referencing this particular area in the model. It's actually being connected to the detail that we imported.
Right. And so that's just a matter of how much time you want to put into your model and modeling. You can spend a lot of time modeling and get a really tight model, and when you do a regular call out or a section cut, you don't have to reference kind of these fake views. You can actually reference the model and it'll show that amount of detail. So the more time you put into the modeling, the more you're going to get out of that project. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at kind of my line work and say like, okay, well, what if I wanted to have these walls show as red? There's a couple different ways of doing that. I can modify it globally by actually changing the wall type. And so let's just try that first. So I'll go to the wall itself, this basic wall generic 8, and I'll edit the type. And I'll go to the structure of that wall. And I'll see that the structure is default by category, generic. And I'll expand that dialog. And I'll see that there's all these definitions here. The surface pattern in elevation will show as this pattern. The cut pattern, they're showing none, right? So what I want to do is define that as solid fill, and I want to change that to red. And so that's going to update that globally. So if I cut a different section in a different part of the model, but it's still that wall type, it's going to show red. So I'll tab through that, and I'll notice that it's not showing red. And the reason is that there's 3 detail types. Coarse, it's going to use the least amount of RAM, right? Because it's not going to show all the different layers and all the different line work associated with that. So let's go to fine, and we'll notice that now it's showing more of those parameters. So that's changing this globally. So let's just say I wanted to show this floor just in this view as red. I didn't want to change it in the project itself, just in this view. So there's also 2 ways of doing that. So I can right-click on that floor, and I can override graphics in view. And I don't want to do it by category. I want to do just this floor. And again, you notice that the projection lines show exactly like when I cut it, or when I look at it in plan, the types of lines, there's no pattern. Surface patterns, cut lines, cut patterns. So let's go visible, pattern, solid fill, color, we'll go red. And just for fun, let's look at our cut line, and it's by object style, so it's default whatever this is, probably 5. And let's make that 16, just to see kind of the capability of this override, right? And so I'm not even able to see that red because that line's so thick, right? So let me just go in here and override the actual cut line color and make that red. So just a quirky way of kind of exaggerating the point. So let's just go back to override graphic in view, set that back to the by object style, and we should have a really nice red cut there.
Could we also show that example how we're using the property manager to modify a door or a window to duplicate it and make it a bigger window? Because we didn't record that.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at an existing family type. We'll look at a door, and I'll select that, and what we're going to do is we're going to modify this in terms of its width. If we notice in our properties dialog, within this family, there's a set here, 80-inch high doors, and then from 30 inches wide to 36 inches wide. There's a 60-inch wide door. Let's make a 10-foot wide door. And so what I do is I'd select this door as a start, and move it here and modify some of these things. And then what I do is I wouldn't want to modify this door. I'd want to keep that one in case I want to use it again. And I'll edit a type. I'll use this as a template and duplicate that. And I'll name it 120. And then I'll change the parameter here to 10 feet. Click OK. And we'll notice that door changed.
You can go show how that you click those.
And these symbols here toggle the swing and the orientation of the door. And that same command also works if you press space. So that really works with most of the common components, so doors and windows. Certain partitions have those parameters, so like bathroom partitions and things like that. They come with embedded parameters. You could also add parameters. So say you want the door frame to widen, but the door itself to stay the same. That's all a matter of editing the family itself, but this is something that's already embedded with it, the family type.
So could you do that same example on one of the windows, just for clarity?
Okay. So we're going to do that with a window now. Let's just pick this simple picture window. We'll place that here. That's much too small. Let's say I want to make that 10 foot as well, so I'll edit type, use it as a template, duplicate it, change the name so I can reference it.
So you're not copying over the old one.
Right. And then I'll change the width here to 10 feet. It updates. And now, every time I go back and want to place a window, I can go back to that same family, and now I have that option. And you see that it's given me a 24 and 48-inch option.
And say, for instance, I wanted to make a schedule of the doors and windows and put it on one of our sheets.
We can go here to schedules. I think that's a little more involved,
Yeah.
but we can give it a shot here. So schedules, new, and we'll go doors. Schedule building components, door schedule. Say yes. And I want to do, we'll say rough width. I'm going to add these parameters to my schedule. The mark. And one other thing. How about head height? Okay. So we have our rough width, our mark, and our head height. And so this schedule is really not associated anywhere, but we'll notice that we can expand that, and now we have this door schedule. And really these things are legends and schedules, keynote schedules, all these things are meant for sheets. So let's go to our first floor plan, and I'll just drag this door schedule over. Bam. And it's showing me all the doors that are shown on this plan. So this view and this schedule are associated. And the same thing applies for, let's generate a small keynote legend for this first floor plan as well. It's similar. So let's go to, I'll go to annotate, keynote. I'll just do this one here. We'll just give it division 5, generic, generic, generic. And then I could generate new schedule. No, not in there. Keynote.
brought this door schedule in, it automatically, intuitively connected itself with the doors that are on that.
On this, yep, on this sheet.
And if you clicked on the doors, and you know how they have that little tag right there? Do they have a tag, or it was just the Windows on?
It's just, yeah, they're not. So let's just add a couple doors and watch this and see that it is smart. It updates. You'll see both schedules populating. Right, and so the same goes for keynote schedules, window schedules, plumbing fixtures, FF&E, so on and so forth.
And the smarter your family, the smarter your door schedule could be, right?
Right.
Cost-wise.
Right, and if you look at those schedules, there's all these parameters that you could add. So let's say, and they're all default. So let's say I want to do Windows. So it's giving me all these parameters, right? So I chose head height. I could do the same thing for Windows. So essentially all these parameters are available. And so now let's look at one of these default doors and look at where that information is coming from, right? It's all defined within that component. Some components are really well detailed. So say you get an Anderson window, it'll give you the local rep, phone number, location, the cost, and many other things. And you can generate schedules from those things as well. That gets a little involved, but Revit has that capability to generate cost schedules.
If you attach that to everything in the model.
So it's based on this same concept.
Say, for instance, on another note, if I wanted to take DWGs out of this.
DWGs.
I think that would be the final note.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Revit button here and go Export, CAD Formats, DWG files. And what I want to do is, at the moment, it's current view sheet only. So it's giving me this option, right? Just this sheet. But what I want to do is I want to export all the sheets that I have. So all the sheets in the model. So I'll select all of these. Go next. I'll go to desktop. Typically in the past, I've always exported 2004 DWGs just so in case certain consultants are a little outdated. It's all based on how you work. So one advantage about exporting the sheet views instead of just the views themselves is, let's see, where are we here? So let's look at this AutoCAD file. So in case I have any schedules or any note annotation and things like that, that consultant gets the actual sheet file, and at the same time, see it. Oh boy. Yeah. Where is it? I already tried it, yeah. So what it's doing, it's giving you that sheet file at full scale, ARC E1, with all the annotations, 1/8 inch and whatever, and it also gives you a model view of the full scale drawing, 1:1. So it gives you both. If you go to just that view and export just that view, you're just going to get the full scale model file. But that's the benefit of exporting the sheet, is it'll give you the sheet in paper space and the model in model space. And these should be 2D line work, so it flattens it for you too, so people don't get confused with, it doesn't actually give you any Z-axis work. So that'll conclude this session.